Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good
morning. Get started. It's 9:10. So I want to welcome you all to the High Technology Development Corporation here at the Manoa Innovation Center. We're really excited today. We have Jon, who's from Hawaii, but he goes back and forth and doing all kinds of cool things on the web. But before we get started, I just want to share a little bit about our program. HTDC is part of the state of Hawaii. We're part of the Business Economic Development and Tourism Department. Our mission is to work with the technology and the entrepreneurship startup community here in Hawaii through our programs, such as the incubator here in Manoa, and we also have one on Maui. We work with technology, innovation, and research technology companies, trying to get them off the ground. And we also work with federal programs. We have Manufacturing Entrepreneurship Partners Program, and that helps also with business development and manufacturing of goods, whether it's hardware, food, crafts. We work with all of these manufacturing types here in Hawaii. We also have a funding company called the Small Business Innovation Research Grant Program. We fund 50% of any federal phase 1 that you get. We also have alternative energy programs through our transportation technologies program. So we're kind of diverse, but we're really, really happy to be here with all of you and bring you the latest and greatest in tech today. So I'd like to bring up Spencer from Sudokrew, who's going to do a little bit about the program today and introduce Jon. Spencer?
Oh, cool. I'm getting introduced to introduce somebody else.
Yes.
That's great. We're Jason and I run Sudokrew, which is like a web development and web application business. So we like to build all kinds of things in the web, but products. Jason, jump in whenever. But awesome. And so Jon is our design partner. He does a lot of our design work, especially stuff that's product-based. And I think everyone's pretty familiar with web as a form of advertising or marketing collateral where, you know, you go to a company and you see their website and it's like, this is who we are, this is about us. And we think that there's some space in there to look at what web can do as a tool and as a utility for people to use. So not just brochures and advertising, but it can also be used to like Google Docs. You can use it to create Word documents and spreadsheets, and you can use it to do a whole bunch of other things. So Jon is a really good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, but he's been building products and playing with these things for a while, and been part of the Designer Fund out in San Francisco, and Bridge. He's a Bridge alumni, which means that he's hopped around from different startups, helping them build their products and design their products from the very beginning. Some of the more notable ones have been Will Call, which I think just went through an A round recently, and Store Envy. Store Envy is kind of like a mix of Etsy and Amazon, like yeah, it's like Tumblr meets e-commerce. These are all products that actually they do something. They have utility in people's lives, and so this talk is about explaining that utility and how to design for it, but also kind of the whole process of what goes into the mindset of designing something to be used. So I'll stop talking now and just introduce Jon. I hope you guys enjoy yourselves, and thank you for coming. Oh, one other thing. If you guys are on Twitter, then there's a link on there for the hip chat room. So if you guys want to I think Jon's going to be throwing up some links for products, so you guys can join in and see what he's talking about while he's talking about it. And if you guys have questions, feel free to ask it through HipChat as well. So it'll be this kind of interactive thing. But the link is on Twitter or Facebook if you follow Sudokrew on either of those. And I hope you heard about it through one of those channels. And Crystal just retweeted that, so if you guys are following him, then, you know, and not following us. But Sudokrew.
Yeah. Alright, gang. So I guess if you have a machine with you, it'd be awesome. You could jump into that chat room, just because like there's going to be a number of things to go through, and we've got some issues with our Apple TV right now, and I was really planning on mirroring a bunch of devices so that I could blow them up for you and sort of show you a lot of different interactions and stuff like that, but that might not work. So if you have a machine, take a moment, jump into your chat, say hi. For the rest of you, I just want to like survey the room and see. There's a lot of people in here, a lot of faces that I don't recognize. So let's get like a show of hands on who in this room is like works in sort of like what we call like the tech industry. So like everyone else, roughly half, I'd say. So I'm assuming everybody else here is sort of like entrepreneurs or like tech influences something that you do, or it has something to do with like, you know, your livelihood, or you're just crazy interested in it or something like that. Who here is a designer? Cool. And then how many of you guys are like engineers or developers or I don't know. So you have like there's a nice balance in here. Cool. Nice. Okay. So just to give you guys some like information about who I am, just like a little bit more something a little bit more visual. Because I'm kind of a visual kind of guy. This is me. Here. So basically, like the whole sort of world that I live in nowadays is revolves around like creating things for people, and creating things that people use that create value in people's lives and have utility, things of that nature. And for the most part, the process from coming up with an idea to handing it over to somebody to use is mostly about solving problems. If you don't know what problems you're trying to solve, then you're going to sort of be everywhere. And if you know what problems you're trying to solve, the ones that you care about the most, then you're going to hit your mark if you can solve those problems. And for the most part, you know, a lot of people have different philosophies about design and what it means and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, design is really just about problem solving, and a good design is usually close to finished when the problem goes away. Everything that lives on top of that, you know, eye candy and pleasure and making things delightful and adding character, those are all really important things. But at the end of the day, like if you haven't solved a problem for someone, then what good did you really do? You know what I mean? Other than making something look really nice and shiny and everything. So this is just like, I'm just gonna go through some visual stuff. These are all like static images, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the website Dribble, and it's definitely like a designer resource basically. It's the kind of place where you go to check out like what other people are working on, and snapshots, screenshots of their sort of works in progress or completed work. And this is the sort of stuff that would end up on a place like Dribble. And I want to make sure that everyone is really clear that when you're creating an experience or you're designing a product, one individual screenshot like this is not going to really encapsulate sort of like the experience of using that product or understanding it. A lot of entrepreneurs feel like they can, you know, go look for a designer that can solve problems just by looking at an image, right? That's sort of like the graphic designer search. You know, I need to find somebody that can make this thing look a certain way for me. Something like this might look really nice, but when we actually use it, it can be terrible. And we don't really know because it's static, right? So that's sort of a problem with design portfolios. You know what I mean? Like we're looking at finished, completed, polished works and everything like that. But unless you can like click through and go experience it and play with it, then that's a whole different world. So this is a collection of UI elements that live inside an app, and I've been working with just like a ton of different engineers and designers and things like that, and we've all seen people apply for jobs for things like this, where they take their work and they throw it in perspective and they put all this crazy blur and stuff on it, and it's like really, really cool, and it's got all this polish and niceness to it, but when you're actually doing something with people, you know, this is not something that you would hand around in an office to an engineer. You know, you're not going to give this to somebody and say, hey, let's make something out of this. That's great. It's all presentation. But something like this is more of a system to this presentation, right? Where these are all elements that live inside of an individual feature in an app, and I mean, obviously there's like some candy here, just because it's part of my portfolio. But in a nutshell, each of these individual pieces can interlock to create a feature, right? So this is a sort of like modular design thinking for creating a feature inside of a larger space. So if we could zoom out of this, there would be probably 10 times as many other elements that go along with this that build up the entire app. And organizing your work in this kind of way is super useful for people to sort of understand like just how detailed you're getting and how specifically you're trying to solve an individual problem one at a time. This is also like one of those candy things. So like this is basically like UI work, you know. So what I want to talk about today is the like walking the line balance between having an idea and getting to a point where your work looks and feels like complete, but you've thought about all the invisible pieces that you know, an average person isn't going to think about. You know, the guts and the soul of a product. And where I want to start with that is I just want to talk about some great products that exist currently. And if you guys, I don't know who's in the Kit Chat room, but if you guys want to like throw out some stuff that some digital products that you enjoy, that you use on a regular basis, that you feel like are great examples of like experiences that you appreciate. I'm going to throw in a few, and then I just want to like dissect them and talk about them, because this entire process is about the experience, and it's really great to like talk to people about the things that they enjoy and the reasons why they feel like those things are great, and to talk about why those things are successful because of those elements, and then we can kind of work backwards from there. Okay, so path. Let me change that one page. Okay, let's not worry about their communication site, but show of hands, who here does not know what path is? Okay, cool. All right, so let's see. Tucker.
Yo.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Do you share with everyone sort of like your example of what tell us what Path is?
Sure. Well, Path, I think they're struggling as a company, but I think they have beautiful design. They just do things really elegantly. It's supposed to be like your social network for your really close friends and family, right? But I just really like their interface. Their like the plus sign on the bottom is one of those like design things that always stick out to me. Like you just press it and it's just like all these different features that come out. So it's really like those kind of things when you're just always playing with an app and you just get it. Those are what like stand out to you. Like, oh, that's really cool. Little effect. Fade out.
Cool. All right. So yeah, Path is a really great product. If I could share my screen with you guys, I would flip through it and show you guys like sort of all the things that it does. But there's like a lot of really interesting interactions that go on in Path. It's one of those products that actually touches people's lives. Another one that's in here is Asana, and I'm interested in like who here knows what Asana is? Yeah, cool. So Russell, do that in there.
Yep.
What's that? Yes, Russell.
I mean,
Nothing else about Asana.
in terms of design, it's not that great. Like I prefer Trello in terms of like app design, but like the workflow of it and how it is like a single page app is kind of like easy to navigate and do stuff with keyboard strokes and everything.
Right.
It's amazing and it's like pretty productive.
Yes, here we are, some product shots, thank you. Okay, so what Asana is basically it's a big giant task management app for teams and you can work individually, but it's really, really modular and you're able to sort of see what everybody's doing from a bird's eye view and then get really granular down to the conversation if you'd like, and it stores links in places and things like that. It's a lot of utility crammed into one space. And when you start doing things like that, you have to be really economical about how you use that space. And a really gigantic challenge for any like tool, any tool that has utility, like that amount of utility, is bringing it into the mobile space, where your screen is the size of a credit card. So it's like, how do we figure this stuff out? You know, which is sort of why we have this design pattern here, this hamburger situation where you kind of tap on the edge. You guys have seen it where it goes over, and it's got all these little tools on the side. And there's all these different design paradigms that we use to hide information and bring it out whenever you need it, and that's a great element that Asana uses in their mobile design. Yeah, we should go back into that one a bit later. Chris Ota threw up Medium. Very nice. Tell us about Medium. What do you like about Medium?
Medium is just a way for people to publish stories, and their, I guess, user experience is just focusing on writing stories, so you're not distracted by a lot of other things you'll see on other websites. As soon as you log in, very basic interface, and all the styles are predefined for you, and it just makes you focus on writing your blog, writing your topic, as well as a great resource for other writers out there. Personally, I hate writing. I'm not good at writing, but I just started using Medium. It kind of forces me to do something different, and I think that site is best example if you want to start getting into writing or find other articles by other people in the industry. It's a great resource.
Yeah, let's go into Medium.
Even the way they do navigation from story to story.
Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. All right, so let's check out some Medium stuff. All right, so as a first-time user, this is what you see when you come into Medium, and we're looking at really popular articles, but like from the perspective of somebody that's just a casual person that wants to read some interesting content. They heard about Medium. One really great piece of usability that they've thrown in is they take your article that you've written and they look at all the words and the syllables and everything, and they figure out like what's the average amount of time it's going to take to read this article. So as we scroll through, down here in meta information, you can see this is an 11-minute read, 9-minute read, 8-minute read. Maybe I don't want to read something for 10 minutes. Maybe I want this 5-minute one right here, right? So then it throws you to this beautiful full-screen image, gigantic text, like very like, this is what this is all about, you know what I mean? So the content is just in front of you. It's all that we care about. And there's some really nice interactions. You can see this sort of like fade out, sort of parallax scrolling situation. The typography is like crazy on point. Like I'm not going to get into that, but like it's kind of a big deal to have solid typography on the web. The amount of characters per line is basically like following the golden rule.
And your ability to comment 2 per paragraph.
Oh man. All right, let's get into that. Okay. I didn't want to get too crazy, but actually, let me scroll through the whole page. This is a really word-heavy article here. Like a lot of times, there's a lot of images inside and stuff. But so when you get to the bottom of the page, you get sort of introduced to this next article that, you know, maybe somebody else read this after they read the one that you've read, or it's trending, that's in trending currently. So, if I click this guy, check out this interaction. All of a sudden, we're on a new article, right? Go back, right now, so you guys can see, just throws it up to the top, you know, and we're on a whole new page, right? So like this sort of like fluid experience is sort of designed to keep you in that world so that you don't leave. You read an article and then you keep reading and keep reading and keep going about these other things. And if I was signed in, you know, then it would sort of start feeding me things that are from writers that I've read their content before, or I've expressed interest in it, or I've tweeted about it, or whatever. And it's just like a great little world to sort of like digest information and not have any distractions at all. Like Chris said, there's no crazy ads anywhere. There's no weird share buttons like sitting at the top above the fold. None of that stuff. All their Chrome lives over here. So
does it include language translation?
Oh no, that's a content issue, right? Like if you want to articulate an idea in another language, I think that Medium is open to that, but it's not a feature that they employ. They're really focused on sort of like the most elegant expression of your idea, and translating that is always a mess.
Right, except that you were at one article, and the next one that was kind of suggesting you might be interested in reading is in a different language.
That's true. So yeah, we should tweet at them right now about that. Hey guys, no, I don't know what that's all about. It's a trending article though, so could mean something.
I'm missing something here. So the purpose of this is just for you to freely express your ideas. It is not for you to kind of sell something, or, I mean,
Well, Medium is, well, from a broader perspective, the company is, they're creating a publishing platform for people. So, you know, you might have a story to tell, or you could be selling something if you really wanted to. And but the presentation is like basically like your idea is what's most important right now. So let's put content up there for you. How they make money and all that other stuff is, you know, probably going to be like a longer situation. They've only been around for, I want to say, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. But they've got a really nice team building their product. So, like Chris was talking about commenting, so we can go in and look at Sudokrew. I'm sure there's a lot of comments here. No, nothing. nobody's got anything to say. Okay. Anyway, so what goes on here? So maybe I have something I want to say about this point right here, right? We'll go over here, and I gotta sign in with Twitter, which I'm not gonna do. But you can leave. You're basically leaving comments based on you know, a chunk of information as opposed to the entire article, which is not groundbreaking, but when you do it properly, in the way that Medium has, you end up with like some really focused conversations, right? So you're taking this beautiful content and you're putting it in people's hands, and then you're letting them have conversations around specific ideas inside of that content. So you're driving engagement in a place where normally those conversations would happen at the bottom of the article, right? Like people would be tweeting, and everybody, there would be just nested comments at the bottom, which is ugly and difficult to follow, and you know, you gotta reference things that are up at the top, that sort of thing. Let's see here. Some other products. Okay, so one product that I'm like crazy about, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Quartz. But Quartz is a digital-only news platform, and their entire product revolves around sort of like this this current world we live in, where like a lot of us don't buy newspapers, and we all kind of have obsessions, right? Sometimes we're obsessed with you know, information about the economy, or sometimes we're obsessed with sports information, you know, sort of things like that. So their they admit to that, and they say, hey, like we have obsessions. These are our current obsessions. Sochi Olympics, and you know, the mobile web, China's transition. These are like really, really broad topics that you know, like you couldn't go somewhere else and just say, I want to know everything that I can about this one particular topic. They're broad enough to have gravity built around them, but they also change out a lot. So the bigger picture of what Quartz does as a product is it places itself in a mobile space before any other space. So if we pull this up on our iPad, like this entire interface is designed for a tablet. This little guy scrolls over here, the content scrolls independently of that. There's gigantic touch targets for your fingers. I mean, we're looking at it on the web right now, but basically they're positioning themselves to become sort of like a high-end newspaper on mobile devices, which is really nice compared to if we went to go check out, you know, say the New York Times website. Right, so right there we're slapped with this thing. What am I going to do with that? That's not the news. You know what I mean? So the difference between this experience and this experience is like astoundingly like clear, because I gotta navigate through all this nonsense to get to the New York Times. Right, and then I got this big block, this giant wall of text, and this is nice, but this is basically like a newspaper, you know. And this isn't how we read content on the web. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of different stuff. And if we want sort of like, you know, everything to be given to us in bite-sized pieces, then maybe this works. And that's cool. And it's also a news network that's much, much larger. They've got a lot of other things to take care of. But I don't really consider the New York Times website to be a product, right? It's a portal to their content. I wish that they handled it more like a product, but that's not what this is about today. So some other great products include, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Keezy. So what this thing is, this is just a toy, right? It's a soundboard app, and all it does is you sort of tap on a square and you can record a noise. And the beauty of this is that it's giving you like this insane amount of creativity in a really, really simple tool. So it's not holding you back or telling you that you can't do anything. This is the app here. And so I can go in and pull up a soundboard, Reggie Watts soundboard here, and I can start playing noises, right? So it's like really, really simple tool, right? And the ability to create things in Keezy is really simple too. Like I'm not going to demo it because I'm not a beatboxer or anything like that. But a lot of people have gone in and sort of recorded little loops and like written entire songs with just this tiny tool. And it's gone from being just a toy to like almost a complete musical instrument. But on a phone, you know what I mean? And it's not complicated like GarageBand or anything like that. It's just does this one thing really, really well. And from a product design perspective, that's the dream, right? To create something and to be known that you can execute it really well, and then to iterate on top of that execution to make it better and better and better, and to add sort of like features that people want or features that you were planning, and while still maintaining that original simplicity and joy that people had when they first sort of experienced your product. So a really bad example of, or a good example of product design, depending on who you ask, is Snapchat. So, who here knows what Snapchat is? Who doesn't? Okay, there's a couple people who know what Snapchat is. Okay, a little difficult to explain, but I'll give you like sort of a bird's eye view. Snapchat is a messaging service where I can send Spencer here a message, and after I send it to him, he'll get a notification on his phone, and he can open that notification up, and it'll say, John sent you a message. It's either an image or a video, and he can put his finger on the screen, and as soon as he taps his finger down, that image displays, and there's a clock that starts counting down. When that clock runs out, the image is gone. You can never see it again, and it's self-destructing, right? So the entire service is fleeting, right? Like everything about it is like I send you something and it's gone in the ether as soon as you see it, which opens the door for a lot of like really weird things. But it also it also opens the door for a lot of crazy engagement, right? So like if somebody sends you a Snapchat of fireworks and you're like on the other side of town looking at fireworks, then you might Snapchat them back. But you may not send those sort of things back and forth via text message because it's going to be like, I don't know, it's going to flood up your text message string. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting product idea that a lot of other people have been duplicating. You know, they're saying like, oh yeah, when you make another sort of thing where you send something and it self-destructs, right? Or like maybe you only receive things randomly from people that you don't know and they self-destruct. You know, but from a design perspective, those of you that use Snapchat know that there's no rhyme or reason for the placement of any of their elements. UI is like, it's kind of hideous, you know what I mean? And I think, so the reason why I say this is it's great product design or terrible product design is because the wrapper that it's wrapped in may not be pretty or elegant looking, but neither is the content that comes through it, right? It's not a museum for content in the same way that Facebook or Medium might be. So perhaps the design is terrible because they want you to just go all out and send whatever you want, right? And not feel like your content is going to be presented, like your table content is going to be presented in a beautiful frame, right? I don't know what this video is, but maybe it'll explain sort of what's going on, or maybe it won't be safe at all to watch. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, never mind. It's a music video. This is what I'm talking about. Poor experience. Anyway, so the despite all of those weird like sort of areas that they walk around and the strange design elements that exist in their product, Snapchat is insanely popular, and they're not profitable, but they are raising money, and they have tons of it. And I don't know if you guys know, but Facebook offered to buy them a little while ago, and just because Facebook likes to buy things because they've got a lot of money. And like it's a social app, and like it could very well live inside of Facebook's ecosystem. That'd be cool, in the same way that Instagram does. But Snapchat said no. You know, we want to stay independent. We want to keep doing things our way, and gotta respect that. So the story of Snapchat is going to continue to evolve, and the product is going to get more and more interesting. But I believe that their design, sort of like these bright yellows and these crazy stark contrasts, and like the idea that your content doesn't need to be pretty in order to be shared, I think that idea is going to remain core to Snapchat. Because like they're basically creating this world where like you don't have to care about what other people think about you. Like that's sort of the whole point of Snapchat, and it creates this place where everything that you send is going to disappear. So it's like, how much could you really care about it? You know, like it's all disappearing, it's all disintegrating. Whereas a place like Facebook or Instagram, everything is just there forever, right? And that's a huge product design decision to say, well, we don't want to store any of your data, right? That's a great idea, because then we don't have to take all this information and put it somewhere and pay for it all the time. So they keep their costs really low, and they have tons of engagement, and everything just disappears, and it's a great idea. It's slightly brilliant. So anyway, so those are like some examples of good products, bad products. But when it comes down to like actually building a product, oops. Let's see. When it comes down to actually building a product and coming up with an idea and taking it all the way to the finish line, looking at a finished product is not really going to give you the full picture, right? So if I could just get like a show of hands, like who here is currently working on any sort of like thing that people use? Like maybe you own a business and that's something that people use, yeah?
Use physically or use on the web?
Or anywhere, just like
I
it's
can
a
hear
product.
further interest in something that's physical.
Okay, what are you working on?
Well, I can't go into it, but it's a physical item. So will you be discussing producing physical items today?
Well, product design is, it's a marriage between experience and tech, right? So I'm not gonna talk about like designing handbags or shoes or like anything like that, but the principles exist in the same world. And it's actually really good to have somebody that works on physical things in the room, because you're constantly thinking about like what something feels like and what it's like when somebody's using it and what the experience of like opening it up for the first time, or I don't know what it is, it's like an airplane, you know, but like the designers that create those things think about those things in a much more intense reality than product designers in the digital space do. And I'd like to see that change completely. I feel like if a designer that works on the web can have a conversation about an industrial designer, if they can talk with each other and understand everything on the same plane, then we've made it. You know what I mean? And there's this gigantic gulf between digital products and physical products, and I don't think there should be, because in the future we're gonna start seeing all sorts of weird technological advances in our physical products, like our refrigerators and our shoes, and we've got Fitbits and stuff like that we run around with that track our things like that, and it's the Internet of Things is what people are calling it. And I really think that bridging that gap, you know what I mean, is like really, really important. I don't know what the rest of you guys are working on, like physical or otherwise, but the idea of product design is basically just creating an experience for someone. And if your product lives in a digital space, then you've kind of got a leg up, because you know more about what that person's experience is going to be like. So, for example, if you're designing a mobile app, you know that people are going to be using it on their phone. That's taken care of for you. The other thing that you know is they're probably not going to be using it while they're driving or something like that. Hopefully they're not. So there's all these different constraints that exist around digital product design, especially for the web, because you have to adhere to all these different standards and stuff like that. But in terms of like taking something from the beginning to the end, I like to think in a physical world when I do that. I like to think that like when an architect wants to, or is commissioned to build something, right? They go to the site, they survey the land, they look around at the environment, they look at the almanac, and they say, okay, well, it rains this much and all this other stuff. And they take that information, they take it back to their studio, they research materials and sort of things that they can do, and like how can we make a structure that's going to stand in this space and like be a part of this space and not just build a building. You're not just going to take some schematic that exists somewhere else and put it here, right? We're going to build something that, well, a great architect is going to build something that defines that space and adds to it, right? And the whole point of that is to make more informed decisions about what you're creating. So like when we're building something for the web, it's important for a designer or anybody that's a part of that project to understand what the tools are that exist, how to properly apply those tools to the problems. There's been a lot of talk about like all these different frameworks that exist right now, Node and like all kinds of stuff, and different platforms for publishing things like WordPress and Squarespace and all that stuff like that. And those are like, people's ears perk up when you talk about those sorts of things because they're true things and they're all tools, right? But there's always a tool that's right for the job, and there's always a tool tons and tons of tools that aren't right for the job. And the important thing to like understand is like, what are all the tools, and how do I figure out which one is right for me or my product? You may not understand how to use that tool, so you might have to learn how to use that tool, and that's why you build teams, right? So you can have people that know more than you about specific things, and so like having a strong product team is important in a physical space and in a digital space. More so in a physical space, just because there's a human body interacting with with the thing that you're creating, and there isn't an app store where you go and like download a physical product and have it. So it's very different. But when you're somebody like Square, I don't know if you guys know what Square is, the card reading situation, but their product team is split between industrial designers who create, POS systems and registers and things like that, and the digital team, which creates the experience that supports that physical product, right? And the gigantic ecosystem that it's created is that the digital kids can spill over into the physical world and vice versa, and they can sort of learn about all these different things. And that's taking them one step further to understand what tools exist and what tools are correct and which ones aren't. Because a great craftsman is going to use their skill even if they don't have the best tools. But a poor craftsman is going to blame his tools. He's going to say, oh, well, I couldn't catch that fish because my rod was not so great, or something like that. And that's it's an excuse, right? So like, if we can talk about tools for a second, for bringing things from beginning to end. I just want to start by saying like everyone has a process, and every process is different, every project is different. I work differently from a lot of other people. Every team operates differently. So I'm sure that you guys have tons of tools, and you can start dropping those in Hit Chat as well. But I want to start with prototyping. And who here knows what paper prototyping is? Not so many people. Okay, all right. So in a digital space, paper prototyping is basically like taking your product idea and maybe drawing it on a whiteboard and figuring out like all the little steps that need to happen for your product to communicate and do what it has to do, right? So like, let's say that we were going to design Snapchat right now, right? We're going and say, all right, well, this is the home screen, we land here, and we know that when somebody opens the app, we need them to, they want to capture a moment so they can send it to someone, right? So we need a way for that person to do that. What are we going to do? We're going to put a button on the screen. So they put this little button down here, you tap your finger on this button and it takes a picture. Really, really simple. So what happens next? Now you have this image, let's say it's like of a mountain with some clouds, and then there's like some birds or something, I don't know. And then you have this image, you look at it, and you want to make sure that that image is okay. So then they give you a forward or backwards, something like that. And then let's say that you tap forward, and now the next logical step is to send that to someone, right? So what do? They put you in a list of all of your friends, right? With little check boxes next to each of them. And you can choose this friend, this friend, this friend. And then say there's like a send button down here, or a back button. And then so like we're just going through the process of creating all the screens for this app. The real magic happens when we start to ask ourselves, well, what if we don't want to take a picture right away? What if we want to go straight to this and pick a person before we take a picture, right? So how do we go from this step to this step and skip this one? Or how do we edit our contacts? Where does that live, right? Is it over here? Is it over here somewhere? You know, is there a button up here? You know, like those sorts of things are what you try to figure out when you're paper prototyping. And there's a bunch of different tools for taking those images or ideas or wireframes is what we usually call them, and then taking them and turning them into something that you can actually play with. So there's this app that exists called Pop. I'm going to throw it in the hit chat. And so what Pop does is it takes you take photos with your take photos of these sort of things with your phone, and you can go in and draw on those little areas and say, hey, I want this button here to link to this screen, and then I want this button here to link to this screen, and I want this one to link back to this one, and so on and so forth. And you're creating the flow for the entire app, and then you're basically able to build out the entire app with just like little wiki drawings and stuff like that, and find out where the problems might be. There's a ton of prototyping apps that don't involve paper at all, but I like to start by drawing because it's really, really quick. And like I said, like everybody has like different sort of ways to get to that final thing, but the huge difference between like product design and designing a simple website is that a website is nearly as static as those images that I showed you guys before, right? It's not something that people are going to take and be able to manipulate or input information into, and if it is something like that, then it's leaning towards becoming a product, right? And that's like one of the barriers that I've been trying to break down is like the huge difference between a website and a product. It's not that complicated if you understand what a product is, but it's difficult if you live outside of the digital space and you're just like, oh, well, you just make websites, right? But anyone can tell you that Asana is not just a website. You know what I mean? It's something that is really, really complex, and it has a lot of things going on inside of it. If you're going to paper prototype a website, it might only take you a couple minutes. Prototyping all of the crazy things that could possibly go wrong in this simple idea is much more complicated than creating a layout for web design. And so a lot of times you create an idea, you create a flow and or some wireframes, and you realize that it's time to start iterating on it. So you bring in your team if you have one, and you need to find a way to share that information and communicate and everything. So, Daniel grew in Balsamic. Balsamic mockups is awesome. Yeah, it's really great. Like, if anybody here can't draw, Balsamic is where you should start because it's probably the best like mockup tool. So, for sharing, sort of like and getting feedback on individual screens and like the flow of things, I like to use a tool called Red Pen, and basically what it does is you drop in, just do a demo here. Red Pen, this is Red Pen right here, and so you chuck in your design. So like, let's go into Illustrator, and let's say that this is our design. I'm gonna screen cap it, and I'm gonna throw this in right there. Upload. Really cute, yeah? So now we can go in and start annotating things. And this little helper arrow right here, he's nice. I like him. He's cool. So like what he wants to do is help me communicate what's going on here. This isn't an interface, so you know, I'm not gonna start defining all kinds of crazy stuff. But maybe this is the landing page for a website or something like that. And maybe I want to communicate that I want this to animate. So I might go here and drop a comment and say, have this guy fly in from the left. Post this comment. Immediately they ask for your email, which is great because once you send this to somebody, they're gonna comment on it too, and then now you're gonna have this email string of conversations going where you can have those conversations in an email, or you can come to this page, and you can comment further. But it's great for collaborating with people in a really visual way. So you hover over it, and then you see everything that anyone has to say about it, and it makes iterating really, really easy, because a lot of times a simple screen is going to have maybe 50 or 40 iterations if you don't know the best way to solve the problem. And the first try is never correct, you know, unless you've built this same thing a million times before. There's another nice prototyping app called Proteo, which is really popular, but it's great for testing and creating high fidelity mock-ups and things that like look real and complete and finished. And you can go in and sort of like define all sorts of like advanced interactions and things. So I tell a lot of people come to me and they say, oh, I need you to design this thing for me. But they don't really know what their problem is or like how they're going to solve it. And I say, well, have you prototyped anything? Like, have you figured out what other people are doing? And a really good exercise is to take sort of like a product that already exists and then screenshot all the screens, every single one of them, and then put it into a prototyping environment and string it all together again. So then you sort of understand what they were doing when they made this button do that, or why certain things are in certain places, to create like a uniform experience throughout the entire app. And it's a great exercise for anyone, especially people that aren't designers or engineers, because then they sort of start to understand the links and the depth of what's going on in a product. Another tool I use, and this is like strictly for designers, is Scala. And what Scala is a, well, there you go. So Scala is it's a Mac app, and it also runs on iOS and Android. And basically, you're creating your designs on your desktop, and you want to preview them on your device, which is really important. If you're not looking at your product in the space where it's going to be experienced, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So it's a really, really quick way to like drag and drop your content or your screens or whatever into this gigantic canvas, and then it shoots it straight to your phone, and you can see what it looks like. And then make a change, hit save, and then it will automatically update your phone with like the newest version of what you just did. So a lot of times you'll see designers with like their phone will be like on a pedestal next to their computer, you know, and they're doing all this stuff, and they'll get updated constantly on their machine. But like a tool like this is really great for collaboration as well, because you can take that and then deploy it to a number of other phones if you want, or throw it into a Dropbox and then have the Dropbox do that work for you. Design teams use tools like this all the time, so there's like tons and tons of other ones. But Scala is really good for that moment when you're done paper prototyping and you're finished like trying to figure out like what the flow is going to be like, and you're more concerned with what things look like and how crisp they are on your device and everything like that. So we can like look at some actual product stuff. So this is a website that I really like called useronboard.com. And what this site does is they go through all these different websites and they walk you through the onboarding process. And what onboarding is basically like when you start using a product, or anything really, it's nice to understand how it's going to work or what to expect, right? So onboarding exists to sort of get you into that world as quickly as possible and to get you using the product quickly, right? That's another thing that websites, like designing a website, you don't have to onboard anyone. They land and it's communicating immediately, right away, whatever the purpose of that website is. But with products, unless your product is derivative of another product or is incredibly intuitive and simple, you kind of need a little bit of guidance as a user. So let's check out OkCupid. That one's fun, right? So how OkCupid onboards new users. And I urge everyone to go through all of these onboarding things because they're great. And they're really funny too. They have like really goofy commentary going on there. So like this is just the overall flow. They sort of give you like a bird's eye view of everything. And so we start with the sign up. And they just start dropping in all these different comments, you know. And like this is basically what a critique would be like if say we were all of us working on OkCupid, and we were trying to figure out how to onboard people. We would take all the screens that exist already, and we would throw them up here, and we would walk through each and every one of them, all the different steps, and all these different comments would be coming from us, right? And some of them would be good, some of them would be bad, and they would help us understand like how do we make this experience better? How do we change? How do we take the goals that we have as a company and the goals that the user has as a human being and find a way to like have some marriage? No pun intended. But anyway, so like they're talking about like design stuff, you know, like white space and like, you know, making sure that like there's nothing here to distract you. It's just all about signing up. Please sign up, you know, and like they just go through this whole thing, everything, you know, and like this is the kind of granularity that is really great to think about when you're using a product, but it's difficult to like slow down and like take your time and see what's going on. Let's see, let's go try something live. Where? Cool. I think we might have some airplay stuff going on.
It's not really yeah, it is. It is.
So when we go to a place like Pinterest, anyway, so what Pinterest has done, and we're just gonna like, Pinterest has got some really interesting onboarding too. But this is basically what you see after you've been onboarded into Pinterest, and you just see like a ton of content, right? And the great thing about Pinterest is that the content is the UI, which is kind of rare. It's an experience that like makes tons of sense in Pinterest's world. Not every product is going to have user-generated content like Pinterest, right? So, you know, you go in and to investigate more information about this content, all you have to do is click the content, and then you're in. And then these guys, this is all like, you know, content is the UI. And then clicking backwards is clicking off of the UI, right? There's no navigation that's a back button or anything like that. And that's something that you would want to onboard people about, because it's not something that exists everywhere else on the web or in any other product. And it's pretty clever. But so I think I've got. Can I switch this over? Yeah. I'll get my phone on there.
I already looked it up.
What? That's crazy. So cool. Okay.
There's a little delay.
A little?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Lot is delay.
That's all the way delayed. Punch it.
It's worth $12 I haven't spent.
Oh man, it's been 12 months of this? Crazy talk. Oh boy. Whoa, that's nuts.
I know.
What is going on? do it. It's like Inception. You wanna try and restart the, try turning it off and turn it back on. That usually works for me. So yeah, I want to show you guys some experience stuff, so that we can kind of like go into the reasons why. Whoa. Yes. Ship it. This is great.
DUI. New Manoa.
Oh my goodness. This is the show, you guys. This is what you can't see.
It's like when you need solitaire.
Some technical difficulties.
So this thing that we're using right now perhaps had poor onboarding or was just designed poorly. People like things that are easy to use, things that operate as you expect them to operate. You know what I mean? This is important. This is important.
That's a myth, right?
It's true. So people like things that are easy to use, things that operate as they expect them to, and any place where you're going to be surprised, you should be a surprise that comes with joy and happiness, right? Not a surprise that is, oh, this thing doesn't work, and now I'm really frustrated, right? Some good examples of that are like banking websites, or any place where somebody sends you a funny link, and you click that link. And you're like, well, okay, let's say Manny here sent me a link on Facebook to watch a video, and I don't know what the video is, but he's like, you gotta check this video out. So I click that video, and I click the link, because I'm like, oh yeah, I can take like, a couple minutes to watch this little YouTube video. So it lands me on this whole new site, and up pops this big giant pop-up, and it's like, subscribe to our website, and get our mailing list, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not what I came here for. I want to watch this video, so now I have to make a choice. I have to decide whether I want to go through the pain and agony of finding the tiny little X that they've hidden up at the top of that pop-up, so that I can, and you guys don't know what I'm talking about. You want to make that go away. So you go up there and you click that X because you're like, I still want to watch this video. Manny is really crazy about it. I'll struggle for you, man, because I love you. Right? So I go find that X, I click it, and now I got to load the video. It's buffering, and it's flash, and God knows why that is. So now we gotta sit here and we gotta wait for this video to load. Turns out, you weren't waiting for the video to load, you're waiting for an ad to load. So now you gotta make another decision. Do I wanna sit through this 15-second ad about Axe body spray so that I can watch this video that I don't know what it is yet, I still don't know what the video is. Do I wanna watch this ad before I watch this video? These are all really, really important parts of product design. You wanna remove as many obstacles as you can between your user and their goals. Like, that is the most important thing. And right now, we're experiencing a failure of that. And what is most important about that is that I'm totally willing to struggle for my goals if I don't have to pay anyone. But if you pay $12 for an app, and you open it, $12 for an app, $12. That's like 4 cups of coffee. That's it. Maybe 2 in one glass. But so you paid money for this app, you expect it to work above and beyond any free experience that exists. And you want to be impressed, and you want it to be perfect, because that's your money, right? So that's a huge thing for me, is finding ways to make things really easy for people. But there's the other side of the coin where you're running a business, right? And you gotta find a way to make money, and you gotta find a way to get there as fast as possible. Does that mean throwing up these obtrusive pop-up ads in people's faces immediately before they've seen the content that they came to see, or before they accomplish the goal? Probably not. A better use of that idea might be to say, okay, well you came for this content, enjoy it. And then after the content is over, say, hey, consider signing up for our newsletter, or subscribe to this thing, or stay and play, basically. which is what Medium does, which is sort of like that experience between like coming and seeing all this beautiful stuff and scrolling all the way to the bottom, and then it's like, there's more, come see more, you know, and then you get trapped into that world, and it's like crack at that point. You can't leave, you have to stay there. But when you get bombarded with ads and all these crazy communication things, if you don't want to stay in that place, you know, it's like walking through the mall and having people shout at you about, you know, shampoo, but you're bald, you know, what do you need shampoo for, you know, like, how does this little website know that I want Axe body spray, you know, like maybe I'm Amish, you know, I don't want to wear a body spray, you know, I'm just trying to watch this video, this strange new machine that I've never used before. This is my first experience with the internet or technology, and it's totally been ruined for me, and I'm confused, I'm scared, cold. And that's basically, I mean, like, people feel like this all the time on these products. Snapchat was a huge one. For a really long time, it was very difficult to use. And in the long ago, in the before time, when the internet wasn't a thing that people believed was had undeniable value, a lot of products were built by engineers, right? And this was because engineers needed a way to create things that people could use, and without a designer in the room, an engineer is just going to say, hey, well, I'm going to make this thing, and it works. Great, it's done. But does it work well, right? It may be efficient in the way that it produces its results, but the idea of efficiency should include the interaction between human and that machine, right? And that's really what design is for, is to create an experience that's easier to understand and feels frictionless. And I'm sure that, I mean, I don't want to talk about Apple today, but that's kind of, you know, the entire opus of what the Macintosh did. And, you know, I don't want to get into that. But what is going on up here? Can I use your personal one? Yeah? Go for it. So anyway, here we are. We're in minute, I don't know, 13 of this crash course in a poor product. And how surprised would you guys be if this didn't work at all?
It already doesn't.
There you go. There you go. So we should get a refund. Oh, I can't show my screen anymore. Anyway, but like basically what I want to do next is sort of show you guys some interaction stuff. So I want to show you guys sort of like the path plus sign and all those different things that it's a different experience stuff, so that we can kind of like get to that point where it's like, oh yeah, you're solving a problem, and then here's what appropriate polish looks like on top of that. And here we are, this is here.
Thanks for figuring that out. So you kind of, you know, even to his point earlier, and kind of what you just said too, is you know, the intersection of kind of the builders and the designers, and how that is a successful marriage. Kind of what your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I feel like it's really important to find people that are smarter than you and learn from them. And a lot of times, well, what I mean by smarter is skilled in things that you don't quite understand, but you need those things in order to reach a common goal. And not every engineer is a bad designer, and not every designer is a bad engineer. You may be one or the other. It's a spectrum. You know what I mean? And well, it's actually more of it's not really a spectrum, because you can be both. You can be what other people have referred to as a unicorn. I'm sure that you guys have heard about those things, and they're not as rare as people think, especially in this day and age. But it's really important to work with people that can make the things that you want to make, and can actually teach you about the tools that are appropriate. And like working with Jason is kind of all about, you know, what's the smartest way to get this done, what's the quickest way to get it finished, so that we can find out if it's right or not, so that we can break it and then fix it, and then break it and then fix it, and then break it and then fix it until it's perfect. But it will never be perfect, so you want to ship it when it's close to perfect. You want to get it into people's hands so that they can use it, and then we can start to understand how how people are using the things that you're making. That's another important part of product design, and I'm glad that this is working so I can show you what it means to use something. So I want to start with Snapchat. Hi guys, this is Snapchat. So this is the first thing that we see when we launch Snapchat. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little video. You guys are so excited. I'm going to send this to Mark Zuckerberg right now. Okay, so this is a video replaying right here, right? So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to send this to, I'm going to send this to Chris Kalani. He's a designer that worked at Facebook for a while, and he hates Snapchat. So I'm going to send this to him. But before I do that, I'm like, oh, I want to go back and I want to add something to my image, right? So I'm going to go up here, and we're back here again, right? So this is interesting. I'm going to type something. I'm going to say, aloha. And go up here, that sort of thing. Send it. Boom, it's gone. Processing, it's sending. So we're getting validation about what's going on right now. Might take a while to send, it's kind of crazy. Might have to go Wi-Fi. Okay, cool. But like in the meantime, I've got a Snapchat from Jon Lewis here, and I wonder what it is. It's probably me over here. So send that guy. If I lift my finger, it goes away. Tap it, lift my finger, it goes away. See that clock ticking down? But now it's gone forever. Can never see it again. So this is like the whole dynamic of Snapchat, and people send some really crazy stuff sometimes. You know, like you can imagine, I'm sure. I'll get you back later. So anyway, yeah. But yeah, so I want to go into some actually some interesting stuff. Let's look at will call. All right, so I worked on will call. And basically what will call does is it's a service that connects you with shows that are happening in your city around you. Right now, will call operates in San Francisco and New York. I think LA is next, and then maybe Seattle and something like that. But so the whole thing is that we've got this list of shows. You can scroll through them and see who's playing, and the prices are very clear, right in front of you. Typography is big when it needs to be big, and small where it needs to be small. This is another one of those things where the content is the UI, right? So say I want to go to, this is on here, Dr. Dog at the Warfield, $26. Right, so some crazy experience stuff just happened. Let's go back and look at this. All right, so this little guy right here is at the bottom of the screen. We know that on the next screen we need the name of the show, the venue, and the price to be at the top of the screen. How do we get there? Tap this sucker, we have them fly up. We create a new bar at the very top with the price and the date and the time all up there. And then inside of that we got all this other content. So we basically created this really nice sort of hierarchy of information that translated from here to here. And it all happened like really, really quickly. And by scrolling through, we're keeping the most relevant information at the top of the screen all the time. So it's up there. You know what the price is, you know what time, and you know the menu. And all of your actions and all the other things that you might want to do exist down here at the bottom of the screen. So maybe I want to buy tickets, or maybe I'm just thinking about going, right? So we can go in and say, all right, I'm thinking about it. And then we get this big giant modal, right? We don't get like a tiny keyboard, we don't get like any of these other things. We get options, 2 options, Twitter or Facebook, and leave, right? So like, say I'm thinking about it, and if you really want to type your own thing, then in very small text here, it says post custom text, right? And then we flip it around and you've got a way to sort of, say whatever it is you want to say. So I want to tweet it out, or I don't want to tweet it out. I want it to just blast out to everyone that I know that has will call, right? So if I tap I might go, we give you this validation. We say, all right, we're going to tell everybody that you know that has will call. So a bunch of people just got push notifications that I might go to a show next week, which I might not go to. So I kind of lied right now. Sorry, but so that's one flow, it's one use case, right? To express interest in perhaps going to a show. The other thing here is like actually buying tickets. The entire purpose of the app and the way that the company makes money is by selling tickets to shows. So hopefully that will be an easy, frictionless thing to accomplish, right? It won't be like spending $12 on something that doesn't work for 20 years. Okay, so I'll tap choose tickets. We're serving tickets, more validation. We're communicating to the user what's happening in the background. Reserved balcony seating. Okay, I'm cool with that. $26 a ticket. I don't want 0. I want 1. I want 2. I want 3. So like this little interaction is really fun, right? And it's different from a counter, a plus or minus. It's more deliberate than a scroll wheel for numbers. You know what I mean? So the reason why we went with this interaction is because you're not going to go over and over and over because you're probably not going to buy 20 tickets, right? You're going to buy 1 or 2.
As a first user, how do I know that that's how it works?
There's an onboarding for this, actually.
Yeah, but then I've got to go to a site to learn how to use this app.
Onboarding happens in the product, always, or it should.
Okay, so when I first run it,
If you download this app right now, you'll get a little walkthrough of what's going on. If I try to do anything else,
okay.
So before you can use the app, you have to use the tutorial.
I think part of it's though, what's the alternative?
The alternative to
Is
what?
it not doing that and the design, you know, why you think that's a good design as opposed to what your alternatives are, you know?
Well, it's about user training, right? If
Yeah,
you,
but I have to learn a different way of incrementing the counter for each app that I have.
you don't have to learn a different way for each app that you have. And
I have to learn it for this one.
there's, I want to say 12 different ways to increment numbers. Probably more than that.
Okay, but why invent a new way of incrementing the counter?
This isn't new. This is just the one that we chose.
On mobile especially, you're constrained by space, right?
Right.
So this, you know, having an up and down potentially above the number constrains what you can, you know, some of that experience.
Yeah, but you don't-
You can also add the text that says swipe here to increase the number of tickets,
Exactly.
rather than having to guess.
You could, yeah, you could make all of them.
Come on, guys.
You can
Let's-
validate them all.
I've gone to websites like this and
Whether
sat there for half an hour trying to figure out how the hell this
Let's
thing
pump the
works.
brakes.
And that's when you find out that that's a bad product
Yes.
design, right, John?
And then never come back to that app again.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
probably the
And
least
that's-
technical person in this room. To me, I can tell instantly that that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
If it's 0, then I must hit it and verify.
But he's not hitting it, he's swiping it to the left or the right.
Can you tap it, maybe do that?
There you go. On
Oh.
holding.
No, can you tap the,
This is what happens when I
what
tap.
happens if you tap
So
the
that's part
0?
of the, you know, part of that overall experience is validating that. We think this is a good idea, let's try it out. And that's like the development side.
You'll only get one chance.
Okay, well, that's-
I've abandoned a number of websites. I've been sitting there for a while going,
Yeah.
So
that's a good.
this communication that we're seeing right here is what is most important when you start innovating on things and you start changing things. Will call is a really interesting example of a product because it changes an entire group of paradigms that Apple wants designers to use, right? There's something called the Human Interface Guidelines that Apple gives out every time that they release a build for iOS. And what it is, it's guidelines for how your app should operate and what types of things you should do. This is not something that Apple wants us to do, so we have to train users to do it. And the reason why we do that is because we had tons of testing and a lot of research went into finding out that people want to make really deliberate choices about spending money, right? So the more deliberate we can make it without feeling like a lot of work, then the closer we are to that goal. The other thing is that we have to have features that separate us from our competition. So if we have some nice little interactions going on in the app, then that makes us a little bit more immersive and different compared to, say, Jukely or Ticketmaster or something like that. But yeah, so I'm not going to go through the transaction process or anything, but
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
So, you know, when you go to Eventbrite, for instance, for an event, it starts with 1 and then you can add to 2 or 3.
Yes.
But you start with 0, why is that?
Because oftentimes there are more than one type of ticket. This is reserved balcony seating only. It should probably start at 1. But the other reason is because this complete purchase button is always at the bottom of the screen, right? So if you were just tapping it rent like a ton, then you might accidentally buy 1 ticket when you meant to buy 2 or 3 or 4, right? So it's more about that slow you down and get you to make deliberate choices about spending money, right? It's not so much about anticipating what the user wants to do, because this is a very specific interaction. There are other interactions in the app that are a lot more they do all these things for you, right? Where you tap this whole thing, and all this content comes into view. That's really, really simple. This whole situation over here where we want to look at our transactions, we can go back and we can look at shows. So like I went to go see MGMT, right? It's basically the same screen, but without that presentation that we had before where anything flies up and all these things happen. And there is no purchase ticket anything at the bottom, you know, like it's very similar but different, and it's part of the design system that we created. Let's see, what's another?
How do you guys validate those designs so you don't end up, you know, kind of to their point of pushing something out that people are just gonna hate and not know how to use?
A lot of times, well, the beauty of working on a product that exists on multiple platforms is that you can use one as a test bed for the other. So a lot of times we would create new ideas and we would deploy them onto the Android version because you can push them out however you want, and you don't have to publish in the App Store right away. So we would push out to a certain group of users, and we would get feedback on how they use that feature. And a lot of times we're just tweaking things like very small amounts at a time. You know, so we might push an Android build weekly, but iOS like every 2 weeks or something like that, or every 3 weeks. So it makes things a little bit more, a little easier to understand what decisions to make if you can iterate quickly. And like Android's the perfect space for that. Not every app runs on Android and iOS. It's kind of a luxury. But like we were lucky enough to have an Android developer and an iOS guy. Let's see here. What's another interesting?
Is that in-app feedback you're talking about, like usage statistics, or are you like comments on the site, or are you talking like users?
Oh no, we're just like monitoring like taps, swipes, things like that.
So someone gets stuck on that page and you realize, oh, I can tell them how to use
Yeah,
it.
but then there's also an entire user testing, you know, situation that goes on too. Like when you're building mobile products, it's really good to have people come in and actually test something in the room with you so that you can get feedback and ask questions and talk about things like that. That's part of like a separate piece of product design that like I can't really get into right now because it's like its own world. Like user testing is nuts. A lot of things can happen in user testing that can completely change your mind about your product. Unless your product already has legs.
How many people did you push that out to on the Android side? Is it 20 people, 100 people?
Between 100 and 300, I'd say.
Is that the normal acceptable?
I think it depends on, you know, how many users you have and, you know, what kind of thing you're testing and how sure about it are you and how dramatic the change is for the most part. If we were changing an entire, like say we were changing the ticket purchase screen and instead of swiping left to right, we wanted to swipe up and down, we were changing something that dramatic, we would probably test it with like 10 people. And just because it's such a different gesture, it's like the opposite, right? So it's like, you have to have a really good reason to test something so dramatic, and you should test slow, I'd say. Another great product is Hotel Tonight. I don't know if you guys know about this guy, but basically what Hotel Tonight does is it locates you, the current city, and then gives you all of these hotels that they've handpicked themselves, and these are the prices for tonight specifically. So tomorrow they might be different, the day after that they might be different, but it's sort of like I need a hotel right now, and they're trying to solve this one problem really, really well. So they go in and have this nice little presentation. It's right up here, and you can see the content behind Chrome. This is the Chrome here. The content behind the Chrome lives back there. So what happens if you tap it? It fills the screen. Chrome disappears, goes away. Really, really nice. Yeah. And then we get sort of these little nodes at the bottom that tell us where we are in the navigation. And then we go back. So this app is really great for solving like one problem. But if we want to get into like more complicated, this is something I really want to show you guys. Okay, so this is the National Geographic app for cities, and as a product, it belongs to National Geographic, but it was built by a company called Rally Interactive. And what they did was they partnered together and they said, we want to create an amazing experience for people that are traveling, and we want National Geographic's brand to be a part of that experience. So they used, National Geographic said, well, we've got all these amazing photographs and all this archive footage and historical information, and you know, we've got all these resources, but we don't have the know-how. Like, how are we going to put this into an experience that's into somebody's hand? And so let's say we want to visit New York. Go in here and oops. Oh man, I got this weird thing at the top of the screen. It's ruining everything. Okay, we'll try this one instead. Same story, different app. So this is for national parks. This is actually probably a better example. So what's going on here is that these are all the national parks, and we can go into one, and there's a lot of crazy interactions going on here where we want to get the guide, right? This is like sort of an in-app purchase flow, right? We want to get the guide. How do we enter into that flow? We tap this guy, and that content, we can just like pay attention to what's going on at the top of the screen. It's getting kicked backwards, and this other thing is flying up. So it's a little different from just like a regular card coming up. It's like that nice little touch that you get that makes you feel like the content's taking a back seat, and now this is what we're looking at. It's subliminal, and it's very, very minor, but these things are sort of like those elements that set this experience apart from any other national park app or any other app that like is displaying you content that you can get for free anywhere else. And this is like sort of the difference between a free version of something and something that you would pay for, something that you're willing to give your money for. Statistics as well, stuff like this. So this is all National Geographic systemation, and see that nice little click, click. Really, really cool. So we've also got custom maps, which are pretty interesting. There's this nice little, these little guys. You go in. Oh, never mind. They changed some flows. But anyway, from like a product design perspective, something like national parks or cities or something like that, like you have all this content that you get to work with, and there's a million different ways that you could wrap it and like have somebody experience it. This is just one way. There's tons of others. You know, like Lonely Planet has like a couple apps, and they're fairly nice. Airbnb is pretty similar in the way that they have you shop for places to stay in a city. Let's see if I have Airbnb on there. Yes, I do. Who here doesn't know what Airbnb is? Anybody? Okay, cool. Great. Okay, Airbnb is it's abbreviation for air-bedded app, basically, and it's a service that allows any of us normal people to host somebody that's visiting the city that we live in. So instead of using hotels tonight, you might use Airbnb, and you'll stay in someone's home. Maybe they're out of town. You can rent an entire mansion if you want. but you can make some money by hosting rooms, and they're just like short stays, you know, maybe a weekend or something like that. And you can be as bed and breakfasty as you want, or as weird and sleazy as you want. It doesn't matter. But they have an entire set of rules and a social network built into it to like sort of vet out people and stuff like that. But so I'm sure that you guys know about this hamburger over here. We talked about it before. Tapping that little guy usually will bring up a drawer off the side. But what Airbnb did was they were like, yeah, we don't want to do that. We want to do something that removes the content from that and places you in like a higher level navigation. So now you have this experience, right? It's very different from what everybody else does, but it's also the same, right? So we're just iterating on older ideas and making them more specific to this particular brand, right? This type of navigation is not easy to implement, but it's worth having. Oops. Let's go back to that Discover. So again, content is the UI, really, really important for mobile stuff. We've got some hierarchy going on here, some really simple information. Like visually, it's kind of boring, you know, but like all you're doing is trying to find out like, do I really want to stay in this place? So you go in, check out the images. One thing that I really like about Hotels Tonight compared to Airbnb's app is that all of the images in Hotels Tonight are vertical, and they're created specifically for a phone device, for like, you know, this vertical space, right? Which is like a great consideration when you think about having to look at this, and then I gotta zoom in and look around, and that's a little bit weird, as opposed to like having just one big image that fills the screen. So we're gonna talk about sort of like, you know, people that create, that take content that other people create and put it into the world and find a way to make it look really, really, really good. Then we can try out Paper, which this Facebook app, they launched it 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. And this is my Facebook, so don't freak out. I don't know what we're gonna see. It's gonna be a lot of girls probably. So basically what Paper does is taking your news feed and like all the things that exist on Facebook, and then changing that experience and making it more in tune for what a mobile experience should be. Facebook on the web is super different from Facebook on your phone. There's a lot of utilities in Facebook, and to cram all those into one app is like, that's a tall order. They've been doing it for a while, and basically this is Facebook's attempt at taking the newsfeed product and making it its own experience. So I'm gonna go in here and check out some of this content, yeah? So you can see our status bar is completely gone off the top of the screen. We don't know what time it is. That's probably not a good idea. It's a bad product decision, but...
Is it though? I mean, do they want you to get lost in the app?
Well, I mean, I spend an awful lot of time on Facebook, and it'd be nice to know what time it is. And a number of apps do this, but the beautiful thing about it is that if you really care what time it is, you can throw that content away, and then you can scroll down, and all of a sudden we've got our status bar up here where all of our settings and all this stuff lives, right? But we go back into the content, and it goes away, right? So that sort of design decision is the sort of thing that people argue over for months. And like lots of really important people get involved in that conversation about like, do we want to hide the status bar? Because like when you look at something like this, it doesn't even look like we're using an iPhone anymore. You know, like this is Facebook's world right here, and it's like a great brand decision to have the content like just live down here. Hey, look at stock. Yeah, ingredients. And throw the content down. So like, let's talk about interaction stuff for a second. There's some crazy interaction things going on here. I can grab one of these nodes down here. I'm gonna grab Chrysotis, and I can pull it up, and all I'm doing is just dragging it around. And this is some unheard of type interaction. Like this level of freedom is pretty nuts. And then it always settles back where you found it. So you can have a really wild gesture, and it's always going to settle back in a safe place. All of the text is scaling in a very like interesting way. We can do it really slowly, and you can see that it's happening, you know. And like these are all very intense, very intense things going on here. say I want to like this post. What is this about? What is this?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. It's kind of a big deal.
I love the sound effect.
Let's see this little thumbs up. Everybody knows the little thumbs up. You know, boom. Like, check out this piece of candy. That's nuts. That's super nice. And you guys, let me do it again. Did you hear that? That's pleasant.
It's like a celebration.
Yeah, see, like, you want to like things, you know, and they're trying to find ways to delight you as they drive engagement. This is really, really, really clean, crisp stuff. It took them 2 years to make this stuff. It's out of control. So like, let's see. I want to see which of these people like this post. So I go up here, and then it just rearranges everything. That's freaking crazy, right? But it's like it all happened fast enough where it wasn't obtrusive and it wasn't like flashy. It was just like. It was neat, you know what I mean? It's very neat, and that's the sort of like separation between, you know, like we're just gonna put this information up here for you, or we're gonna find a way to present it to you in a way that like feels special and feels like it's worth something. So some other cool stuff that they've added, like the entire onboarding process for papers is really nice. Like I have to log out and uninstall the app. I didn't show you guys, but. Basically, the value add to using Paper over just the regular Facebook app is that you can also use your messages. You can also get chat heads thrown around, live wherever you want.
Well, the navigation for Paper was pretty drastically different from Facebook, right?
Oh yeah, navigation is.
I love it.
So basically, with Facebook on the web, you're looking at vertical scrolling. Everything is up and down. And with Paper, if we want to scroll through our timeline, we're going to go this way. Yeah. So it's more like reverse chronological order, right? You're going like across the timeline and not up and down, like diving deep into time. You're going backwards in time instead of. So like it makes a little bit more sense, and it's also sort of better for your thumb. You know, like this feels pretty natural to just like swipe through, as opposed to like this claw sort of motion that we've gotten really used to. Those sort of things are pretty important too, but I mean, not everybody thinks about them that much. But yeah, you don't want to cripple people trying to use your app. Some other really great product is Tumblr, and I apologize again if my feed is out of control because I don't really know. It's Tumblr. So Tumblr is another publishing. It's like a blogging service, and so you create your content or whatever, and you throw it online, and other people see it, and they can regurgitate that content. They can say, "Oh, I really like this picture that Spencer posted, so I can take it and reblog it, and it'll show up on my blog, and then all the people that follow me will see it, and then they may reblog it, and then it just turns into this gigantic viral effect." So during like political elections or sporting events or the Super Bowl or a game that happened before the Super Bowl. Anytime anything outrageous happens on the internet, it's usually going to end up percolating on Tumblr. So because of that, they have to make everything really, really easy to use. They have to make things insanely fast to produce content and get it out to the world as quickly as possible. So this is just a feed where content lives, and so you can go in, you can double tap things to like them, stuff like that. I can go in and leave a comment. This nice little bounce that comes in, yeah, just check this out. It's a little, really, really pleasant. Very clean, very simple. So like say we want to create some content, all these little circles come in. And there's this nice little colloquial never mind as opposed to a cancel or no or whatever. It's really, really nice, right? So like there's this this conversation that Tumblr's having with you where it's like, oh yeah, come in, let's hang out. Look at a bunch of stuff, maybe make something if you feel like it. If not, whatever, there's plenty of stuff to look at. It's cool. So like say I want to make some content, I want to upload a photograph. I want to upload this photo of Spencer. Next. So like now I'm bringing things. It's great. It's great. So I want to throw in a caption. I'm going to say Surprise. This is storage test photo. I don't know how many. I don't know if you guys know Sean. But this is the best photo that I've ever taken in my life. Just to be clear. So the some interesting things that are going on here. All right. So hailing a keyboard is a fun interaction that everyone likes to have control over. You visit a page, you don't want your keyboard to just fly up all of a sudden just because the app wants you to put some text in. So they present your content to you, and if you want to add some things to it, you can hail the keyboard. And if you want it to go away, all you have to do is swipe the content down, and the keyboard leaves, right? So you're not scrolling underneath the keyboard. You're you're typing and everything, and like entering the keyboard only happens by tapping on a field where content can be created through the keyboard, which is like a clever sort of like tiny thing, but it's something you have to think about because the app's not going to do it for you. You know what I mean? It's not going to create itself. These tiny little elements are things that like you have to think about when you're creating this experience. So right now it's set to automatically tweet. I don't want to do that, right? So like do these things. We're going to throw it up, and so like one bad thing right here is that there's no validation of what's going on. It's not saying, oh, we're posting it for you right now, and it's going to show up in your feed. You know what I mean? It's not communicating any of that to me. If I scroll all the way to the top, I need to refresh the entire feed, and maybe it's in here. It's so like it's below some other content, and so let's say like if we wanted to improve something like that. Maybe what we would do is we would have a little spinner. We'd say, all right, we're up, it's going up, or something like that. Or maybe we'd throw it up into the status bar or something. And then you might get a little notifier at the top where you tap it and it takes you all the way up to your post. Because this is like an infinite pool. Like we can, that was weird. We could scroll down forever and ever and ever and ever. But like when it's time to see the post that you created, like you want to know where it is in that span of time, because Tumblr is one of those places where people are constantly producing things all the time, and it's nice to have a sense of place in that gigantic freeway of information that's going on. Burn. So like let's talk about the Apple stuff, and then I'm gonna wrap up after that. I think. Sorry. Oh yeah. I was just going to show some stock apps and talk about like why Apple set the standards the way they did and that sort of thing, but like, whatever it's not there. Oh, sure. Yeah. All right. Whoa, questions coming. What's with that? Oh my goodness. All right. These questions are coming from Matthew Tegan Santos. You know who Matt is? He's a darling. I love that kid. Matt asks, he's got 3 questions. Top 3 things a designer wishes non-designers would learn.
Danger.
Top 3 things. I'll just pick one. And by non-designers, that's kind of a crazy thing. But I feel like it would be great if non-designers, which is such a weird thing, we're all designers, we all think of this. It would be great if just general people had more respect and understanding for materials and process and craftsmanship. Those are all really important things that I feel like us as a society has lost. There was a time when owning something that was created by hand or something that was like a lot of work went into it was really valuable, and you treasured those things, and they became heirlooms. And now we've entered into this world where everything is just like, give it to me now, and it's made in a factory somewhere by some kid that you never met, that's probably never gonna enjoy those things that they're making for you, and then we throw those things away, And I feel like a really thoughtful designer is going to be a person that finds a way to create those things that live for a really long time, and that people can hold on to and enjoy for a really long time, and that are sustainable and not wasteful, and that you're not building those things on the backs of children or whoever they are. I fell asleep. Sorry. Anybody else? What's up?
So talking about paper, like people are already using the Facebook app. What's the point of redoing navigation and basically reinventing Facebook when people are already there?
That's a good question. And I can't answer for Facebook, right? But what I can say is that there's a lot of smart people working there, and there are more joining every day. But if I had to speculate, which I hate doing, but I would say that one of the main reasons that paper exists is because Facebook was created 10 years ago, and the mobile web, terrible term, didn't exist really. People weren't consuming content on their phones, basically. And now that we are, we think about like what the Facebook experience is, and we also think about like what is this thing right here? You know, it's very, very different from a computer, and because of that, our experiences here should fit this device and not that one, right? So if Facebook was created tomorrow, brand new, as if it never existed, I believe that Facebook would make it mobile in the same way that Path was. Mobile first, because I care about, you know, what's going on right now. And if I want to dive into those things, then that's sort of what the desktop web is for. But to consume content in your palm is like magic. It's like this sort of stuff wasn't happening 10 or 15 years ago, and now we have these phones, you know, and like these devices, and Facebook Paper is basically like taking that magic and taking all of your stories and your content and everything and putting them in a place where it's easier to go through them and understand them. And I'm fairly certain that Facebook will take a bunch of their other products and turn them into, you know, standalone apps as well. And that would be really nice. It'd be nice to have like a really good mobile app for event creation on Facebook. Or, I mean, they already have Messenger, that's really nice. Instagram takes care of photos. There's tons of opportunity there. But the other great thing about it is that they're creating opportunity for other people to create things that are similar to that. You know, so it's like, oh yeah, you think you're really great at telling stories? We'll do it better than Facebook. You know what I mean? So I'm sure Medium will push some sort of mobile version of their platform, and I'm sure content creation on there will be great. You know, because that's what they're really good at. But like part of product design is about doing it in your element first and finding a way to create it in a way that you're comfortable with in the best way possible, and then moving on to the more complex ways to get that stuff out. Yeah.
If you're a product developer that's involved in physical products, but you need help with the design of the digital aspect, how do you go about finding those people, and how do you work with them?
I'd say just, oh yeah, okay. So Jon was asking if you're working as a developer in a physical world, and you need to find designers that work in the digital space for something that may potentially, I don't know, maybe support a physical product, something like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. What I would do is I would, from the top, at the beginning, I would look for products that accomplish something in the same style as what it is that you're trying to make. So if you're trying to make something that, like where there's going to be designers and engineers and physical products, then look at products that exist in that model, and then find out who designed those products and go talk to those people, because those people are going to be the ones that know they've done it before. That's really important. But what's also important is that they're going to know people that want to do those things but aren't currently doing them, right? That's probably the easiest way to find them. There are other places like, you know, freelance marketplaces and stuff like that, but those are like just shopping for a designer, right? What I would recommend is having a conversation with people, and you know, everybody's open to having a conversation. But like finding designers isn't hard. There's tons of them. They're everywhere. There's people that aren't designers and they say they're designers. And, yeah.
So can you be a little more specific? How do you go about finding them?
Me personally?
Well, for me.
Okay.
How do I find them? That's why I'm here, is to try to see.
You're trying to find designers?
To learn how to find designers. Maybe to learn how to interact and, I don't want to say manage, but manage that relationship.
I see. All right. I would say rub elbows with designers. Like, find places where designers go. There's a lot of like different meetups and things like that. And there's some design organizations like AIGA, and there's, you know, university avenues that will always lead you to talented people. But I'd say just step into a room where people are congregating and talking about design, and you'll bump into people that know people and stuff like that. It's a small community, in Hawaii especially, it's a small community, but I mean, I live in San Francisco now, and it feels just as small. It's not a giant ocean of people just swimming around, minding their own business. Almost everybody knows everybody, and the same is true here. There's just fewer people.
And there's platforms like Dribble and
I can throw some actual websites in the chat room, or where designers hang out on the web. But yeah. Anybody else got some queries? What's up?
So a lot of the different products you've been working on, I think it'd be nice to discuss like your agile process versus the waterfall process, because I guess building products, doing those iterations between the designer and the developer, as well as probably your stakeholders. I know you mentioned your sprint times for like for iOS like 1 week, and for Android is 2 weeks. I'm just kind of curious what the process is working with.
Every company is different, basically. Like I have my personal working style, and I try to like mesh with whatever organization I enter. But in terms of like working with an actual developer, if I can be in the room with them, then I want to be in the room with them, and if I can be sitting next to them, I want to be sitting next to them. And if I can manipulate lines of code with them, then I'd like, you know, I try to get as close to the building as possible, right? So that I'm not super far removed from the steps that it takes to go from design to implementation and shipping. Like the actual design process is a little bit like I'm really different. I don't open Photoshop. I don't use Photoshop at all. You know what I mean? I design in Illustrator. I use vectors for everything. I spit out my assets as PNGs and I hand them over to an engineer. And this is like the very broad sort of like step-by-step process. Hand my assets over to an engineer, and then they have flat screen mock-ups, and then they construct that, and then after we've constructed the screen with all the assets, then we go in and start making interactions happen. And but that's after we've wireframed everything, and that's after we know what the flows are, and that's after we have product goals laid out, and all that other stuff. It's sort of like the visual design process, layered on top of, you know, all the other decision making that had to happen before we actually went in and designed the UI. Yeah. But that's like a super fun talk. I'd love to do one of those. Like just sit up here and like design stuff and have an engineer. It's like table tennis back and forth. That'd be sweet. Yeah.
What do you think is the big difference between a visual designer and a user experience designer?
Okay, this is a good one. This is really important. Okay, so Spencer asked, what's the difference between a visual designer and a user experience designer? A user experience designer is going to be a person that, in a lot of ways, lives in this world over here on the whiteboard, where they're going to take a bunch of information and a bunch of different goals and a bunch of different research about the people that are going to be using this product and what the company wants to accomplish and what the technical constraints are, and they're going to take that stuff and they're going to turn it into a series of flows and user stories. And they're going to take those user stories and they're going to find ways to break them, and then they're going to find ways to fix them. And after they're done doing all that stuff, they're going to show everybody that they work with. Those people are going to give them feedback, and then they're going to go back to the drawing board and do it again. And that's probably going to happen like 4 or 5 times before any visual design actually takes place. What a visual designer is usually going to do is pay attention to that entire process so they understand why certain changes happen. But in the meantime, they're working on things like style guides and sort of like communication elements, and like the things like where Tumblr's never mind button, you know, that's something that like a visual designer is going to throw in and be like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is like something that's going to help support the experience that we're designing as well. So an experience designer is like thinking about sound design and onboarding and visual communication and storytelling and all these different things. Whereas a visual designer is like sort of like the last person to grab the baton that's going to carry it across the finish line and help implement things with an engineer and stuff like that. But to say that they're different people is like crazy. Most user experience designers are visual designers, and they're people that can take a product from whiteboard to completely polished app, and a lot of visual designers are really strong at creating experiences, right? Design is a nebulous thing. There's a lot of different pieces and parts to it. You can be good at a lot of different things and really bad at others, which is why it's great to be part of a strong team. A better question might be, what's the difference between a graphic artist, like a graphic designer, and a product designer? You know what I mean? Because like graphic design is strictly static. It exists, it's printed, and it exists, and it lives in a physical space or a poster or something like that. You're communicating an idea. But when you're designing a product, you're thinking about how it's going to work. You're creating an organism, you know, and all the people that you're working with contribute to that. There are companies where there are people that there are designers that only do one thing. Like Twitter has probably 200 designers, I don't know, something crazy like that. What do they do all day? Some of them sit around and wireframe, some of them design one button for 6 weeks, you know what I mean? But I guess that's what you do when you have an insane amount of capital to pay people. But like we in this room, I don't know if any of us are like crazy millionaires, but I don't think that we want to operate that way. We'd like to be really, really nimble and smart with our money, and we want to be able to hire people that can do a lot of different things really well, or a few things really well, and grow with each other. That's the most important part of like having a team, is growing together, because your product and your idea are useless unless you can execute it and build it. Like, if you take away anything from this, like all these finished things that we looked at and stuff, like the people that made them are more important than the examples that I'm showing you. It wouldn't have been possible without those people and the team and the bouncing of ideas and that table tennis situation, all of that stuff. But yeah, that's, hope that answers your question.
How's the process for redesign of an existing product different from designing it from like paper prototype?
Okay, so the question is, what's the difference between redesigning an existing product compared to starting from the beginning as it doesn't exist? There isn't much difference. The main difference is that like when you build something from scratch, you're starting with a blank slate, and you have no memory of anything that existed before because it hasn't been built yet. Redesigning something is actually a little bit more fun. Well, there's less freedom. Is only as much freedom as you will allow yourself to have, basically. When you want to redesign a product, you take that product the way it is, deconstruct it all the way down to its base elements, and find out sort of like where things are working and where things aren't working, and why are we redesigning it, and what kind of resources do we have to make it better, what are we taking out, what are we putting in, those sort of things, and then you work back up from the bottom as if it didn't exist, you know what I mean? That's basically what you would do if you started to build a product that never existed too. You would look at what other people have built that's similar, or like somewhere off on a tangent, and you find it and you deconstruct it. You see, well, this is what they did right here, and then this is what this other company did right here. And we kind of want to take this lesson from these people and this lesson from these people, and you can learn a lot from other people's mistakes, a ton. Not all those mistakes are public. A lot of them are, and if the company is good, they're only public for a very short amount of time. You know what I mean? Like we might find problems with an app, and then that company iterates on it, because nothing is perfect ever. That's why you should ship early and often. You know what I mean? Like you build something, get it out into the world, get people to use it, find out how they're using it, and make it better as fast as you can. Because there's no perfect version of anything. Because humans aren't perfect, and everybody wants something different. You know, so that's the whole purpose of like sprints, is sort of to say, okay, we want to accomplish this in a short amount of time. We have a deadline. We know what we want to get done. It's realistic for us. Let's get it done and get it out the door and make it better next week. You know, and we'll collect information about how people are using it so that we can iterate